My wife wants the moon, but really with no effort on her part. It seems as though she wants her cake and eat it too, right? She wants us to make billions of dollars, and she looks to me to bring it in with no explanation. She wants to have an amazing sex life, but doesn't seem like she's really putting in any efforts on her part. These are stories that I hear from guys all the time. Last week, I had three of these types of questions from guys. Well, she wants XYZ, but it doesn't seem like she's giving me much effort from her part. Why is she thinking that way? What's going on here? And how do I maybe check her entitlement? This question comes up a lot. There's YouTube videos on this all over the place. She's entitled. Women are solipsistic. That's just the way that they are. You just have to deal with it. Well, that's a part of this discussion here. Do we just need to deal with it? How can we handle this actually in a healthy way, in a kingly way, in a way we want to lead our intimate relationship forward? So here on the Man to Man, we talk about relationship between a man and a woman, a long-term monogamous relationship in which we also want to have freedom. We want to have freedom within our relationship to live our life with passion. We want to have freedom within our relationship and be confident within ourselves no matter what. And we want to be free to make the most important promises to ourselves, like how to uphold boundaries and do this in a healthy way, even if she doesn't like it. So does your wife want the moon, but no effort on her part? How do I check her entitlement? So I'd love to talk with you guys right now about where do you feel your wife comes across as entitled? Okay, let's start there. We have a lot more to get into. But I love when you guys are here live. If you want to come on in, what's one place that your wife has seemed entitled to you? What would you say? Please go for it.
So like in my situation right now, we've been separated for a good while, and she laid out like this separation rules and like a schedule and just all these like bylaws and to make herself feel comfortable and safe and all this. And some of it I respectfully would say is, was necessary. When we argue, I would get really heated and I'd be out of line, and so I understand where she's on guard and protecting herself. But I've put in some work and have had no signs of any of that for 3, 4 months. And we over this weekend, she went from like definitely going to divorce back to, well, would you be willing to like restart the separation again? As if it was day one. And I'm like, well, I don't know if you mean, am I willing to continue just, fighting for us and working for us, then sure. And so I said, yeah, that's fine. I'd be thankful for, that rather than divorce. So anyway, she said, well, okay, then I'm reinstating all of these initial separation rules that we had in the very beginning, which had begun to get lax, So in other words, I could roam around the house more. I didn't have to be in the basement and just all these different things that, and so because I feel so guilty of the verbal abuse and the things I've done, I agreed to some of these stringent things in the beginning to give her some feeling of protection, safety. Now she reinstated them, even though they're really not necessary. And today I told her I didn't think that was necessary. I was hoping maybe it didn't have to be that way. And she basically said, well, listen, it's either that or, you can take a hike. And I was like, wow. And that like immediately sparks my insecurity, sparks my fear. And I feel like I'm really stuck between being a big wuss and trying to respect truly where she's at. And so I kind of backed off at the moment. And then I saw that there was a call tonight, and I figured I'd jump on and just get some wisdom there because yeah, because there's some things where some boundaries are being crossed on my end now. I'm sort of being controlled, a little bit mistreated, maybe. I tend to tell myself, well, you deserve it because you put yourself in this position by mistreating her. And I'm sort of willing to take these lumps, but at some point that has to sort of stop. So anyways, so I guess the point is the fact that it got reinstated just as strict as it was in the beginning when we clearly were doing fine. I mean, we're not together, but we were doing fine in the sense that we weren't fighting, we weren't blowing up. It kind of made me feel, I don't know, worthless.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for getting started.
Yeah, and her entitlement would be that she can just kind of tell me whatever to do, and she knows I'm going to do it. It's like I don't know how to break that cycle.
Okay. Did you agree to all of these separation rules, or was this just kind of brought down on high? And how was that
Yeah.
discussed?
Yeah, like in the beginning, she basically said, she said, other than divorce, my only other option right now would be if we were to separate. And she said, there's no places to rent up here. We live in Amish country. We're not Amish or anything, but we live in the middle of Amish country, and it's beautiful up here, but there's no places to rent at all. And so I said, well, I can't go anywhere. So she laid out these rules that she said would make her feel comfortable, and it was kind of like a take it or leave it. And at the time, especially 4 or 5 months ago, I was willing to go ahead and take that. And I figured, okay, I'll honor this, I figured it might be some time and then we would earn each other's trust and it would start to lax off, and it did. So I would say, to answer your question, yes, I did at first. The fact that it's coming back now, like at the moment, I don't agree with it. I don't think it should be this way. But she's not really given a choice. She's sort of giving me ultimatum, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. And
Yeah.
what does separation mean to you? Does separation mean we're working on our relationship, or separation means what?
So I would say, in the general sense, separation would mean, yeah, we're working on it, but we're not sure what might happen. And then now we defined our separation, and it was, we kind of agreed in the beginning that ours was, it was merely an alternative to divorce, and it was no guarantee, and that, you know, if it went well, we might continue, we might not. If it went poorly, then it was kind of like guaranteed, okay, this is going poorly. So, but my typical, if I just think of separation, I would think of someone that's obviously barely making it, and they're, you usually have one working on it and one that's not.
That's
That's
what, so that's why I ask. That's why I ask. So it's been, I don't know how many months that you said, 5 months?
it feels like five. I think it's actually been about 3.5. Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a few months, and are you happy with the separation situation?
I mean, ultimately, I was. I'm not right at this moment, but I would say overall, I was. It actually gave me a much needed breather that I didn't expect. You know, kind of time alone. I've done some counseling with some places around town. I've met with like my local pastor and stuff weekly. I've had some time to read some books. You know, that kind of stuff. And so I feel like it's been good for me. I have no idea what she's been going through. We really don't talk on any deep level right now, unfortunately. So I'm not happy about being separated, but the breather has been kind of a nice reset for me. It's allowed me to work on some emotional muscles in the area of like insecurity, neediness, and some other things that I've really needed to work on for a long time. It kind of forced me into the corner, and I had to work on those things. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, it's so easy, guys, for us to look at the outside in and say, "Oh, don't let a woman tell you what to do. She can't tell you where you're." Well, it sounds as though actually it's gone pretty dang well for 3.5 months. And it sounds like you're actually enjoying the time. It sounds like she's not down your throat as much as she was in the past as well. And you've been using this for yourself. And so really where the rub is if you have a boundary or something that you want to shift. Okay. And so let's talk about this. So what's the definition of entitlement? According to Oxford, the fact of having a right to something, the amount to which a person has a right to it, or the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. Okay, so when we first got together with our wife, did she inherently deserve special privileges or treatment? And I'm speaking to everyone now, including myself, right? Did you let it go on? Did you agree to this special kind of treatment all along the way, especially from the beginning? And maybe not. Often this kind of starts to slip over time. So was this something that she's been doing all along the way, or is this something new? And if it's something new that we've been allowing to slip over 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, however long it may be, then by definition, we've allowed her to cross a boundary, so to speak, for a long amount of time. And maybe we didn't know it was a boundary. Maybe it just started to happen. And then down the road, we realize, wait, I'm not okay with this. And now it's a difficult conversation. But point being, if it's been slipping, we are part of that equation. So that's something that I want us to recognize as men, is with a child that's spoiled and overly entitled, or anyone really that we continue to have in our life, we are part of that equation. Yeah. So when we first got together with our woman, we formed some type of equilibrium. We brought what we brought, she brought what she did, and we formed some kind of equilibrium at the beginning. And usually the entitlement starts to come up later when we've crossed boundaries over and over, or we weren't aware of it, or we weren't home, or she started spending money, or the attention that she started to get outside of the house, it started to slip. And so where are we responsible? So what can we control? Virtue is what are our values, what we believe, what boundaries we have, and what can we control, and then taking responsibility for what we can control. So in this spot here, you could say, well, I'm not okay with the same separation agreement. I want to shift the separation agreement. You could say that. But what would be the reason? What would be the virtue or the value, your values behind wanting to shift it, would you say?
So like in my case, you know, we're here with our children. I feel like the children are missing out on time with me unnecessarily. I feel like there's certain aspects of the home is not being cared for properly. Even down to like our pets, our animals. So I feel like there's certain ways that I'm supposed to be there to show up that I can't, especially with the kids, and just I can't imagine the perception they must have. Like, man, dad's like down in the dungeon, he must be a bad guy or something. And I don't know if they feel that way at all. I mean, they look up to me and we're pretty close. So that would be one. And then other than that, I just feel like we're not. There's been like the second half of your topic there with no effort on her part. There's been like absolute zero effort, and there's been zero effort. You and I've talked privately in the past about how I've always felt like there's been zero effort on her part. Everything's always my fault. That kind of typical thing. So in that regard, I feel like here I am like working like crazy on myself. And I feel like saying, well, what are you doing to work on issues? But if you asked her, she doesn't have anything to work on. So it's like you said,
Yeah.
she wants the moon with no effort.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So if I were to give you some homework, do you have a notepad or something there?
Yes.
Yes, there's going to be three columns. First column is me, so you as a man, so me. The middle column is us, and the right column is her. Okay, so me, us, her.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be three rows. The first row is virtue, so it's the three parts of the Stoic triangle. Okay, virtue means what are my values? What do I believe? What are my values or my boundaries? That's all wrapped into virtue. So the first row is virtue. Second row is control. What can I control? And the third row is where am I taking responsibility? So columns are me, us, her, and the rows are virtue, control, responsibility, right?
Yeah.
There's some
Got it.
obvious ones like you can't control both of you, but you can lead in the relationship, right? The us column, in the middle row, control, right? You can't control her. So in the her column, you can't control her at all. And I want you to fill out these 9 squares as thoroughly as you can. You'll need more space, right? As thoroughly as you can, meaning for you as a man in separation, what are your virtues? You're in the basement, but as one of your virtues, I'm going to connect with my children. They know I'm going to show up for them no matter what, even if I'm in the basement.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What of that can I control? Well, I can say I don't want to be in the basement anymore. Well, why? What's my virtue for not wanting to be in the basement? And ultimately, when it comes to responsibility, am I willing to fight for this no matter what? Am I willing to fight for this virtue that if my virtue is I'm not going to stay in the basement any longer because of this reason, am I willing to take responsibility? And this is a hill I'm willing to die on. Like I'm willing to get divorced over this virtue. Okay, so that's the homework. What's the virtues that I want? Because you've already agreed to everything on her list. So unless you're violating your own integrity, it doesn't sound like you're violating your own virtue or your own integrity. And maybe it's just now you have these, well, it'd be nice to have. It'd be nice if I wasn't in the basement. It'd be nice if she tried. It'd be nice if she put some effort in. But you can't control that and you can't force her. And you can't take responsibility for her.
Right.
Okay, let me put this another way. On the list of for her, what is she responsible for? Because if she's not responsible for anything, then you're taking all of it off her plate. You're part of the equation there. So where does she run with the ball? What is she responsible for? That's another way to look at this 9-section homework as well. So I want you to get clear with, all right, is there a hill I'm willing to die on? Is there something I'm not standing up for? What's my virtue? Where do I want to go with us? The virtue I want to go with us. I want to go to this healthy place with us. Okay. And what does she believe? Well, I can't control what she believes. What is she responsible for? What am I responsible for? So all in there is going to be the dogs, where you sleep, her efforts in the relationship. So flush this all out because these are different questions. Sleeping in the basement, the dogs, the kids, what she's doing for the relationship. You can only control some of those pieces. And you have to know for your own self, what am I willing to stand up for? Am I willing to get divorced over something I'm wanting to change? It has to be that strong. Like it has to be a hill you're willing to die on. Otherwise, it's really water under the bridge or something that you'd like to have down the road, maybe.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just you're battling over a concept, some kind of wide range concept rather than something extremely specific that you can lean on a principle.
That's exactly what, very well said. What are the principles and are you willing to lean on them hell or high water?
Right.
This is good for you no matter what. What are my principles? What am I responsible for? What is she responsible for? If you have nothing on the list that she's responsible for, let's say that. So then that's a family discussion, or maybe it's discussion with her first. Hey, I'm doing too many things. I'm not able to juggle all these things, including taking care of the animals. So taking care of the animals needs to come off of my plate. That's a hill you're willing to die on. Like I can't do it all. So it's not like she can pressure you and you'll do it. It's just can't do it all. The animals are starting to suffer. So either you or the kids or someone needs to take care of this responsibility. Who is it going to be? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So from there, what are your worries or what are your fears from that spot?
My fears would be, I guess, once I was to gain clarity on that, will I, stick up for myself appropriately, because I've let so many things slide, and I think someone made a comment across there that was a good point. So agreeable that she's used to that now. Why would she, why would she back down, And I might have to ruffle some feathers here soon in a respectful way, and
Yeah, what would be the number one thing that you're wanting to shift?
well, it's something that I really can't control. The number one thing I'd want to shift is us even just spending a little bit of time with each other, And I've made the commitment that we don't have to talk about the past or nothing, but we have to be in the same room a little bit if we're going to move forward, Because in one breath she'll tell me, "Well, I do want to see what we can maybe, what we can have instead of giving it all up and all this." And I'm like, "All right, well, let's put a little effort into that. Let's eat dinner just at home, not a date, just at home." And so one thing I'd like to shift is to spend together just a little bit, take one brick off of the wall. And I haven't really pushed the issue very much, but I
Yeah.
thought it was about time. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, that's totally reasonable. There's many, many men that are here right now that are thinking, I don't want to be in limbo, separated forever. Separation is for a small period of time, an intentional period of time, with the goal of then coming back together and spending time with one another, having deeper conversations, let's say opening our heart to one another again in our pains and in our joys. But many men say, no, I'm not willing to be the ATM while she has no responsibility and just does whatever she wants and strings me along.
Yeah, because every time I show up in a different new way, or let me rephrase. Seems like as she notices the work I'm putting in, she starts finding new reasons why she should leave instead of why she should stay. So, for example, at first it was, "Hey, you're a verbal abuser. You're this, you're that." So that's been kind of taken care of, or at least my actions have shown that it's taken care of. Meaning I've taken responsibility for it, and it's not repeated. Now it's about, well, I'm just not sure about your character, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm not a good guy at all, so now it's just about character, and there's this constant proving myself, and I'm kind of almost over it. I'm really kind of close to over it because I'm not here to gloat or anything or sound arrogant, but I mean, I'm a pretty decent freaking guy. I love my family, I work hard, and this whole thing's starting to get really judgy, and I'm sure it's
Yeah.
probably common, but
Yeah. So the hugest mistake that all of us have made at one point or another is making our woman our mother, our therapist, our judge, jury, and executioner, right? The
yeah.
one that can tap us on the shoulder with the golden sword and tell us that we're valuable, and only she has the golden sword somehow in her Mary Poppins purse, I suppose, and she can take it out and bequeath you with value in this moment and then snatch it away in another moment's notice, without a moment's notice. And we have to take that power away from her, that power back. Steve
Yeah.
Horseman calls it what is it, like the magic tube of lipstick, the powerful tube of lipstick that she has put in her purse. And that tube of lipstick controls all of our own self-worth and validation and how we see ourselves. And so we've got to steal back that damn tube of lipstick. We got to realize that the golden sword in her Mary Poppins purse doesn't actually do anything. That's actually just her opinion, and we've given that golden sword value. And so since we've given that golden sword value, it has it. If we take the value of her bequeath away, then it no longer has value. But it's really the consequences thereafter that we're afraid of. It's not so much her upset per se, it's then what's she going to do? How is that going to affect my life down the road? And so that's really the fear.
Right.
And if you want this separation to include family time together or some type of time together, and you're willing to stand up for that, then that's a delineation you're going to have to decide for yourself before talking with her about it.
Right. Yep.
It needs to be something that it's a hill that you're willing to die on if you choose. So yeah, put in here, he's imposed the original conditions. Perhaps ask her a what question. So what or how question that we learned, those are the best ways to phrase what or how. What has changed since the original guidelines? Then he says, you are at risk of a continuous set of expectations that will change over time with her judging. You should claim your rights and expectations. Why are you in the basement and not her? Why you should leave and not her? Yeah, this is exactly what I'm asking for you to write out is, why am I in the basement? What's this about? What are my virtues within this aspect of time? And if you don't want to agree to it, don't agree to it, but that has consequences. It may have consequences. But if she has no responsibilities, she will also learn no respect or agency for herself. Just like with children, if children have no responsibility, they don't learn self-worth or agency within their own selves. And it's the same for an adult woman too, or anyone.
Yeah.
So we're actually robbing her of her own self-worth and agency if she has no responsibilities, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
It's a lot of good stuff to think about, right? Come on in. What do you want to say? What else do you want to say about this? Please.
Well, you're letting her define you, and she's always going to have a judgment, and you're placing value on that judgment when it's just a view. And I always find it interesting. They always ask you to leave. In my situation, I said, if you want to leave, you leave. I'm not leaving. If you want a divorce, you file it. He hasn't. She actually said, I don't want a divorce. I said, what do you think we're doing?
Right.
And your issue or your situation, you're defaulting to her judgment. I would just go, well, that's fine, dear. That's your view. You're entitled to it. I understand your view, but I don't, it's not my view. And then just don't expand on it. Let her ask you the questions. I mean, why are you in the basement? My missus, she got upset. Well, you move to the other room if that's what you want. I'm not. I'd want to fix this problem. If you want to walk away from it, dear, fine. You being in the basement isn't helping the problem. It's giving you a bit of space, but it's defining the space that you're in. She's going, I've put him in the basement and I've got control of him. And it may be you're going through these 5 stages of marriage, and one of them is about the 3rd stage is control aspect. Just look up 5 stages of marriage, and you'll see a little thing about it, which is interesting. And you go through a phase as you get into where each partner's looking for control of it. Maybe she's in it. Maybe she's menopausal. Maybe she's what. But if you don't know what you want and do, exactly what Jeff is saying, you will constantly be defined by her, and she will redefine it endlessly to get what she wants with no effort from her. And it's like, in a way, you've got to put her situation at risk. Well, you want to leave. Oh, well, there's nowhere in Amish County that I can go, she says to you. Oh, well, sounds like you've got a problem. What are you going to do about that problem? Don't try and solve it for her. Don't agree with it. She goes, oh, shit, I've got to live under a bridge. Oh, bugger. That's not what I intended, if you know what I mean. But if the real problem, I think, and it's not a criticism of you, because we all struggle with this thing, is you go along, solve the problem, you want a problem to solve, and you've got a solution. They just keep redefining everything. It's their feelings. My view is you put it back on them. What is it you want to do? Not a why are you doing this, not as you want to do. You said in your instance that you had some behaviours that you weren't happy with. In my situation, I said to her, I don't know what it is I've done, but you can guarantee it wasn't intentional, and I apologise. I haven't, for whatever it is I've done. I'm still not clear, and I haven't apologised again. That was a pathway towards getting the situation to change, but I'm not going to continuously apologise. And a lot of the times I've just reflected it back onto her. She's asked about certain things, and I says, what's the rule? You don't lie. I'm not going to lie to other people. I'm not going to lie to the kids. That's the rule. It's always been the rule in the house, style of thing. But you get once, because you get married and you keep trying to please them, and suddenly it becomes control. I think they went to a different school. I think they
yeah, amazing stuff. Like phenomenal. I love when you guys are here. This is the value of our brotherhood. It's one of the leaders in the kingly life path. Amazing stuff. Let's press pause. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Come on in, please.
I think we're done, and it makes me very sad, but I don't necessarily have any perspective for your first guest, except to say I've allowed myself to be put in my own basement, so to speak. She moved out. She's living with her parents. She's caring for aging parents, is her story. Kind of where I'm at right now.
There we go. You just came back. I lost you for about 5 or 10 seconds there. So you put yourself in your own basement, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I'm living here in the home, and two of the 3 kids are home going to school, and she's living in another state with her parents. And I was in that state on business a couple of weeks ago, and I sent her a text. I said, hey, I'd like to introduce you to somebody that I think you'd enjoy. Would you like to grab some lunch or go to a ball game? And the answer was pretty much, thanks, I know him, but I'm real busy with caring for the folks. So, it just, the separation never had the defined terms that you spoke of or others spoke of. And if I keep feeling like if we're not working towards something, then we're just delaying the inevitable. But I also don't want to be hopeless, but I don't really feel any reason to be optimistic based on her actions.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. It sounds as like you're to the point where many men get, which is why have hope any longer? Because it seems as though her actions are not stepping back toward me. And so what are your choices now?
To wait it out and be served, or to serve. And I don't want to be the guy that served papers on my kid's mother. And I don't want to be that person. I do still hold her in high regard. She still does contribute to our life. We both contribute to our financials, and we both, I think, deeply love our kids different ways. And I think the choices are wait it out and be served, or take the action myself. And I'm still very reticent to be the guy that 30 years from now they're going to say, the kids will say but on the other hand, I got kids in my own house that are telling me, she's never coming back, dude. Why don't you just get over it?
So what's your value here, your virtue around this, as far as what are you missing in your life that you would like to have? Connection, closeness with a woman, I would say, right? Relationship with your wife, if you could have it. What do you want to move toward here?
I'd like to have a great, unfiltered, unfettered relationship with my kids, and to not be cast as an outcast. And I think, as often is the case with grown kids, the spouse, the mom, is closer, and that's understandable. They've been with them all the time. And dad's got a lot more work to do, but it's very stressful. It's very, I keep hearing everybody say, I'm working on myself. I'm working on myself. Well, I'm working on myself, but I'm not looking for a cookie from her that I'm working on myself. I mean, I'm not looking for acknowledgement, to be honest with you, because ultimately I'm working on myself for me. And I think at first, I was working on myself for some sort of a reconciliation, but then I started realizing, hey, this reconciliation may not happen at all, but I still got to keep working on me. And it's been an interesting journey, but I'd like it.
Have you been building your relationship with your kids?
I like to think I have, and I think it's gotten better. But I think there's always this wedge, because I think they're uncomfortable they're uncomfortable right now because of this prolonged separation. I mean, I don't know if I need the closure just so everybody can figure out their future one way or the other. It feels like, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm in limbo anymore, because I think the die is cast. I think she's done. And I keep asking myself, why do I allow myself to remain in limbo? Because I think I may have, turned over my self-esteem to her at some point.
Yeah.
And I looked for that validation from outward things, and I need to keep working on my own validation. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, sure. That makes total sense. These are the most difficult questions that most of us have ever had to answer, at least among the top of the most difficult questions. What is my true virtue to my bones, to my soul? Can I leave my children's mother? What are the circumstances of doing that? And what modeling for relationship am I giving my kids by staying, or by allowing this to go on, let's say, by waiting for the rest of time? If with adult kids, this would be something to chat with them about over time. And the way to do this isn't necessarily, hey, tell me what to do, child of mine. It's more of, I'm looking at these 2 or 3 potential paths forward. One may be, I stay married to your mother for the rest of our lives, and that may be one situation, and we're not together. Another may be, what if we divorce and then we end up getting back together? What if we divorce and we don't get back together? What would Christmases look like for you, sweetie? You might say to one of your children or to your children. Now, you're not looking for them to tell you what to do, but if part of this, what you said, is to be close to them, to honor them, appreciate them, to not be the exiled dad, well, then first order of business is relationship with them, not so much changing something with your wife.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, since reconciliation seems to be off the table from her perspective, I just want to do something simple, like figure out the holidays so the kids aren't divided, so that the kids aren't feeling like there's pressure on them. It's like, you know, it would hurt, but if they said, hey, we'd rather be up there with her for Thanksgiving and Christmas, I would accept that because I want them to be happy. I'm not trying to be a martyr either, but you know, if I've learned anything in this process is you can't compel people to do something they don't want to do.
Absolutely. And that is a fantastic question that every man here could utilize, which is asking her, how do you see the holidays unfolding? How do you see us inviting the children together for the holidays? Or what do you see as plans for the holidays? This gives you a great idea of maybe where she's at as well.
And I do believe that she's decided that they're going to be separate holidays. I don't believe she's coming back to our home for the holidays. So it's just a matter of waiting for her to tell me her plans or me to push the issue. And I'm just tired, dude. I mean, I'd rather go to the gym and work on projects than get into conversations that just have shitty endings.
Right. Yeah, I totally feel you. So it sounds like it's time to ask her, what does she see for the holidays? And you got to know what you want going in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. You're in a tough spot. Of course, there's no magic fix to this. Yeah, please come on in.
Well, just a thought for you. I've got adult kids. Christmas, we don't have Thanksgiving here. Christmas, there's a function at one of the kids' place and they decide who comes. So we don't plan, the parents don't plan the Christmas anymore. The children, they're all adults. They decide what comes. They choose to invite us both. Well, that's fine. If they only invite one, that's fine. They're the host. It's the old adage, you're a daughter in your mother's home and mistress of your own. So I wouldn't decide, you see, I don't know how old your kids are. I wouldn't be deciding the Christmases and Thanksgiving arrangements. Just leave it to the kids. They know your situation. You're not putting any pressure on them. You want to go to mum, you just go, leave it to you. Mum or I aren't deciding. It's up to you where you want to be. They may decide to go nowhere. They may decide we don't want the hassle of mum and dad around. They can deal with their own shit. We're going to have our own lives. And that could be a wake-up call for your wife as well. At some point, they've got to let go of the apron strings, is the expression we use here. That's it.
Yeah, great idea. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right, guys, we have a couple more minutes. Let me press pause and press mute on everybody. Let me leave you with one more idea. This is actionable. You could do homework on this. You could journal on this. Liminal thinking. So liminal means the space in between or transition from one to another. And so if your wife is being entitled, if you're not sure what to do, if it's slippery slope slid into the spot that it is now, you are part of that equation. So what has my thinking been in the past and how can I shift my thinking to help this? Liminal thinking is a way to create change by understanding, shaping, and reframing your beliefs. Liminal thinking, beliefs are models. They're not necessarily truth. They're created. Beliefs create a shared world. So we build off of our beliefs and those around us as well. Beliefs create blind spots. They're not ultimate truth. Beliefs defend themselves, and beliefs are tied to identity. Now, I talk much more deeply and specifically with my one-on-one clients and in my paid groups. Well, what does tied to identity mean? How can I flesh this out? But I want to show you this graphic briefly. So the horizontal cut there, the horizontal plane is what is conscious and what is not conscious. What are we aware of? We're aware of our actions. We can see our actions and we're aware of our results. But what has driven our results and our actions is really beliefs that are underneath the surface. And those are driven by experiences that we've had in childhood or in other relationships. So what results am I getting now? What actions drive those results? And what did I believe? What did I believe at the beginning of our relationship or when this started slipping into her being entitled and me being just okay with it, not standing up for myself, not knowing how to stand up for myself or what to do or what to say? What did I believe when that was happening? And what were the experiences that led to that belief? Did I see that in my childhood? Did I see it in sitcoms throughout culture? Were my experiences that I was just so busy, I was absent? And this started slippery slope sliding. And maybe what are my beliefs now? If I want different actions and different results, I have to shift my beliefs. And to shift my beliefs, I need to be aware of what they are and why they got there in the first place. So what experiences led to my beliefs? How do I want to shift those beliefs? Maybe it's in the boundaries that I'm upholding. Maybe it's within my virtue, knowing even what my virtue, my values, my boundaries, my wants are. What can I control? What can I not control? And am I taking responsibility for those things? Hope all of you do the 3x3 grid that I laid out earlier. If you have questions about that, absolutely let me know. Reach out to me, guys. greatmenmovemountains.com. the forum, greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook, right? It's a free Facebook group. You guys are phenomenal. Have a good night, guys. See you next time.